I'm going to discuss something that I can't find any information for on YouTube, and also because you guys have kind of called me out in the comments for not telling you the dirty little secret as to why I do this. I've mentioned many times, I use one lens for everything, one lens to rule them all. And I've told you it's a 90mm, but I've not told you why. And there's a really good reason for it. And the reason I've not fully tackled it is because along with this comes a whole load of baggage. There's a whole load of misunderstandings, in part thanks to camera brands trying to sell you rubbish, and in part because the internet allows it to happen. So let's go through this. Now, for a quick recap, I should have planned that shot first and measured it out. And the reason I'm telling you this is because it's relevant. This is my camera, 90mm Actar lens, hiding behind this big lens hood, 90mm. Cambo Actus MV body, to let me do all the technical stuff, medium format GFX 100 megapixel back, relevant. The world that I work in is commercial. I'm at the whim and mercy of the creative director, who's at the whim and mercy of the client, who's at the whim and mercy of their boss. We go and do a shoot. We all agree what we're going to do. Everyone's happy. We shoot it, and then someone has an opinion. Could we just? Is it possible? Can we? Is it okay if we just tweak, move, fully change the brief in post? Yeah, of course it is. We'll sort that for you. And we do, because it's our job. Likewise, sometimes when we've just done a shoot, it comes out this Friday, I think. It was 3 shots stacked together because we couldn't do it in one shot, not for any technical photographic reasons, but because physics didn't allow us to have the thing being that big in real life to photograph it, because from a styling point of view, it wasn't possible. So we had to do it with this. And that's where my love of the 90mm focal length comes in. With 90mm, if I take this bottom bit of the frame here and this top bit as one, and we're going to make a next frame, this top bit and this bottom bit need to align perfectly, even with cropping within it, because there was cropping. So we crop these frames and stick them together, and the distortion and the pin cushioning is perfect. Now, it's helped in part by the fact that I have a technical camera, so I can make sure I'm absolutely aligned. I try and do that on this here 18mm lens, ain't going to happen. 50mm lens, you got to be joking. It's not going to happen. Having the right focal length matters for this reason. Now, I could go longer, I could go 400mm, but then you have a problem with focus fall off and background compression. The reason here we're sat at 18mm, I want you to see my lovely studio in the background. Do you like my church pew, by the way? No one's commented on my church pew. I've got a full-size church pew back here that I've put in the background of my videos. No one's commented. It's beautiful. But I want you to see this. Now, it lets you know that I'm probably a real photographer, and there's a video of that coming soon, but I might be a real photographer. I might actually know what I'm talking about here, because you can see I've got a studio, and these things ain't cheap, so I must be making some money from somewhere. Or it could be like those private jet things where you just rent it for the day, and actually this is just green screen or whatever. But I want you to see the background of my studio, because it gives you the context to say, yeah, he's got some kit back there, he probably knows what he's talking about on this. I might listen to him more than someone sat in their bedroom. You might be wrong to do that, but that's kind of what we're going from. That's why we have a wide lens here, but it's why we don't have one here. I don't want you to see the background. Now, sometimes with wider lenses, you can get closer and focus more. Sometimes with longer lenses, you get macro ones, you get even closer. There's loads. This is why it's not an easy subject, because you can't compare like for like, because like for like doesn't fully exist, and if it does, it's by dumb luck. However, now if I take this 90mm lens, and put it on that camera over there, which is a crop sensor. This is the medium format. It's still a 90mm lens. You see less of the image because there's less sensor to record on. It's been cropped, but it's the same. Taking the equivalent focal length for an APS-C camera, which is probably around 55mm, does not allow you to do what having a 90mm on a medium format does. To do the same thing, you need to put a 90mm on that. And then you have the quandary of depth of field issues, because now you're going to move further back to get the same framing. And therefore you get more in focus, which could be a good thing. However, when you're closer to a subject with the same focal length, you get more of a 3D look. And that is regardless of depth of field. You capture more detail because you're filling the frame in a slightly different way. And the way that focusing works and the light joins at the back, I'm not going to go into detail because it's so boring I'll fall asleep. It makes it a more detailed image. There is a point at distance where you get more detail from the same focal length. Go and look at it if you're into that sort of thing. It is insanely boring and it's irrelevant because you don't choose the distance you're shooting at. You shoot from the distance you have to shoot at for many reasons. One, it's like, I can't get any closer. Two is, I want to fill the frame. And three is, I need to shoot for cropping. So it's irrelevant, but there is that to do with it. Somebody commented going, well, Scott, all your images are sharp front to back. Why not use a micro 4/3 camera? You could use the same lens, go way far back and get the same depth of field. Now my images might look sharp front to back, but they're actually not. There's a lot of depth of field going on there. Yes, we're at f16, we could probably do it at f2 on a micro 4/3, but there's more to it than that. There is the depth, there's a 3D feeling, there's the optimal focus distance to aperture relationship. There is also the functionality of being able to be somewhere near the subject you're photographing. Things being magnified bigger onto the sensor look better, and also bigger sensors are better. They have higher bit depth, higher dynamic range, higher resolution. All matters, as we've covered in previous videos. So if you want to get the same look as this 90mm lens on this medium format camera, and you've got a crop sensor micro 4/3 iPhone or full frame, put the 90mm lens on it. You cannot get the same look. Don't try to get the same look. Don't look for an equivalent because you're cheating yourself. If you all took the equivalent focal length from my 90mm on medium format, you can't do the same composite work that I do because you've got the wrong distortion. You need the right focal length on the right body. Now 90mm is not a hard and fast rule. I think anywhere between 75 and 110 is the sweet spot for this sort of commercial work where you're comping lots of stuff together. We shot a whole world of out-of-home campaigns this year. All of them are composites for many reasons. Sometimes it's because physically what they want photographing, we can't build in real life in one go. Sometimes it's because we shoot back plates because we know that the client might change their mind. Often they want option A or option B and we'll flip it in post. And a lot of the time, it's easier for me. Sometimes it's just easier to shoot 3 frames and stick them together than to light one monster frame, because as well as all of the physics we have here, we have these lighting physics here going on as well that we need to control. Often to get the fall off we want, the subject's too big to fit within that fall off. Like there's a whole row, like we don't have to get it in camera. That's not what we are. Photography is not get it right in camera. Photography is a tool here that allows me to create my creative vision, or allows me to work with a creative director to create their creative vision with my technical know-how. That's what photography is. It's not let's get it right in one shot in camera and not edit anything. I will use whatever means necessary to get the image I want. If it's personal work, it's how I want it to look. And if it's commercial work, it's how they want it to look. And it's trying to work with that to get the ultimate image. Sensor size is relevant. Bigger isn't always better, but it often is. If you could get a large format digital camera, I'd be using one, but you can't, they'd be too expensive. The bigger the sensor, the better the image quality. Equivalent focal lengths are absolute nonsense. It's just a marketing ploy to help people understand what they used to have once upon a time. But none of you used to have it if you're watching this, because I say none of you, the majority of you didn't. Chances are you didn't own a 35mm camera. I've seen the stats on who watches these videos. You're too young. And if you did, it's because, like me, you're a bit of a hipster. So this is why we use the 90mm lens.